Time, the first crucial test of the Tour de France, the time trial. They call this the race of truth. There are no tactics. The rider who sets the best time wins the stage. Let's have a look straight away at the overall standings in the Tour de France at the start of the time trial. Steve Bauer of Canada, 34 seconds ahead of Ronan Pensek, 37 seconds in front of Franz Masson. He expects his real challenges to come from these people. Raúl Alcalá in 6th place, but over 10 minutes behind. Stephen Roche, Eric Birking, and the defending champion Greg LeMond, who has to do something about that 10-minute and 41 seconds deficit. And Pedro Delgado in 81st place, over 12 minutes and 20 seconds back. The Tour de France, by the end of today, will know who the real challengers are to Steve Bauer's race lead. Hello again and welcome to the roads of the Tour de France. And Steve Bauer, the Canadian, today facing his most crucial test since he took that 10-minute lead exactly a week ago at Futuroscope. I'm standing at the finishing line of the time trial, which is at Epinal, but some 61 kilometers away from me, the riders are departing at 2-minute intervals. In fact, they started at 9 o'clock this morning and they will go right through until 5 o'clock tonight. Steve Bauer, of course, starting last, the place traditionally reserved for the Tour de France leader. Already home this morning is Robert Miller. He came in with a time of 1 hour, 21 minutes and 54 seconds. And frankly, that time will not be good enough now to keep Robert in with any chance of final victory in this race. This was his reaction when Paul Sherwin spoke to him.
It'll change my position when I have to maybe do the climbers prize. Maybe I'll go and do that now instead of doing the classification.
But do you think it'll put you in a better position when we come into the mountains, because Greg will be the rider everybody's working for, and you might be able to slip into a nice little break one day?
Yeah, I hope I can win one of the stages in the Alps. I want to see which one.
Well, news from out of the course is that Jean-Francois Bernard is setting quite a pace out there and so far has the best times at the checks. He's not arrived here at the finishing line yet. Behind him is Pedro Delgado. Greg LeMond is yet to start, so too, of course, is Steve Bauer. Time trials this year are very important to the riders in the Tour de France. There are, in fact, 147 kilometres of individual racing. So technology is playing its part. Greg LeMond is setting the trend with those handlebars. Last year, the Tour de France became a struggle between two riders as Greg LeMond fought to limit his losses in the mountains to Laurent Fignon, and then attempt to gain time in the individual time trials at which he excelled. In the end, it all became a battle of technology between two men who'd proved themselves almost equal in strength. LeMond's bicycle was far from conventional, a low-profile frame, a rear disc wheel, and outrageous handlebars. The streamlining of the bicycle started a decade ago with the frame changing shape as the top tubing was sloped. Solid wheels made from graphite gave the rider an advantage of a second per kilometre. Then came the Scott handlebars, designed by Boone Lennon for Dave Scott, the triathlete. These handlebars enable the rider to lay forward in a streamlined position, the elbows taking the body weight. During tests, an advantage of over 3% saving on drag force was obtained. The bars would not turn a normal athlete into a champion, but they did make the difference for LeMond.
Greg's fitness level was not in question. He probably could have done what he did anyway, is the feeling I have. The handlebars perhaps were the replacement for a weak team last year. He didn't have a team to help him through all the road stages, to do the chasing down of the counterattacks and so on. The handlebars helped him out in the time trials as a replacement for that. But he was coming on form, and he's just extremely fit by the end of the Tour de France.
The Europeans, especially Fignon's team, have spent many hours on the machine, but the aerodynamics of the body had been missed.
I don't think that they've gotten away from it so much as they didn't understand it. Their work has been done on the machine and not on the body form. And the body form has been taboo because you had to have X number of centimeters between the arms to have good breathing. And that would be the case were we not resting on the elbows when we're getting narrow. By changing the body form, that's where 2/3 of the aerodynamic drag is up in the body, 1/3 down in the bike.
This year, Le Monde will continue developing his streamlining, and the handlebars will change shape even further in his search to save a few seconds that could again win in the Tour.
It has a couple of little tiny changes with the twin tips, the two-position pad, and the narrower, lighter, stiffer, all these things. The end result is that this bar will outperform the other bar. Drag on this bar versus drag on that bar. This will be better.
Well, of course, Laurent Fignon is already out of this year's Tour de France and won't have to worry about the pain today being experienced by the riders in this individual test. Greg LeMond will rely heavily on those handlebars and hope he can make some big inroads into Steve Bauer's time. Let's have a look at the route. It's a very, very difficult route indeed. It's undulating, running through the Vosges, and there is in fact a very dangerous descent just before the finish here in Epinal. Overall, it's a long route, 61.5 kilometers. And here is Jean-Francois Bernard, who has gone through the checks with the best time, and he's riding extremely quickly indeed. Passes Girotto from the Carrera team and goes straight by him. Pascal Lance, the local rider in the Tour de France today, racing on home soil. He lives here and he'd set the best time, but that's going to be wiped away now because Jean-Francois Bernard is not too far away from the line. 1:19.31, that's the best time we've seen. And this is Pedro Delgado, who started not too far behind Bernard. And he's challenged Bernard at the interim distances, which are timed today, by the way, at 19.5 kilometers, 41.5 kilometers, and 51. And it looks as though Delgado is pushing Bernard. Now, this is a good ride by Delgado, because Bernard is a recognized time trialist. He's got good form this year. Not the magic form of a couple of years ago, I would agree. But Delgado will pace himself against Bernard's time. And it looks like he might even sneak inside it because he's lining up for the finish, 100 meters to go. Delgado is going to go number one here. He's going to knock Bernard off the top. 1:19.10 for Pedro Delgado. Good ride. Starting 4 minutes behind Delgado today, his teammate Miguel Indurain. And he has been the best time at every check. So Indurain is doing a superb performance. The teammate of Delgado, who's expected to be at Delgado's shoulder in the mountains this year. It looks as though he might well be the leader of the team if he keeps this form up, because he's going to certainly go the best time on the board. This is a great ride by Miguel Indurain. So Indurain coming up to the line, and he's going to just flip to the left and then to the right, and he's going to make this time the best of the day so far. So this is a good standard now that Greg LeMond and Raúl Alcalá are going to have to aim at. But there's no doubt that Miguel Indurain is going to finish with the best time, better than his more famous teammate, Pedro Delgado. Indurain, winner this year of Paris-Nice, and now is going to set the trend for the others to follow in the time trial today. 1 hour, 18 minutes, and just 29 seconds. And starting just 2 minutes behind Indurain, Giovanni Bugno, the winner of the Tour of Italy and led the race, in fact, from start to finish when he won the opening prologue time trial. He added one more time trial victory, joined the Tour of Italy on his way to that great win. And now it looks as though he's on a reasonably good ride here, and he's going to push Indurain's time all the way home. So Giovanni Bugno finishes with a time of 1 hour, 18 minutes and 52 seconds. That's good enough for second best for the moment. And this is Sean Yates, and it looks as though Sean has crashed today. Apparently, rumour has it, he's fallen some 10 kilometres out from the finish. Sean Yates coming home then with a time that he will not be happy with. 1 hour, 20 minutes and 37 seconds for Sean Yates. So some big names are in, but many big names are still to finish, including, of course, Steve Bauer, Raúl Alcalá, Eric Breukink, and Greg LeMond. So don't go too far away and join us after the break. And welcome back. The time trial stage still underway, and a lot of top names still to finish, and of course the maillot jaune, Steve Bauer. Let's first of all have a look at the overall situation to date.
Miguel Indurain still holding the best time, 1 hour 18:29. Gianni Bugno 23 seconds slower. Pedro Delgado is third. Bernard has slipped back to fourth. Tony Rominger is fifth, and Claude Coquillon in sixth place. And here's an early sighting of Greg LeMond. He's gone through the 19.5 kilometre checkpoint with the best time, 24 minutes 45 seconds. So he's gone ahead of Miguel Indurain, and he's made the start he's wanted. Look at his handlebars, the way he holds the single handlebar at the top, and then he just puts his head down and concentrates.
But he's using a massive gear at the moment. You can see by the way he's rocking the top half of his body. He hasn't got all his strength over the top of this gear at the moment, but this is a very hard part of the course, and it's amazing the speed he's going through here at the moment.
Well, LeMond has to fear no one today, because many of the men he hopes to be ahead of by Paris are starting behind him. So there is nobody really out on the course that he can check his time against. He's going to have to go through and hopefully lead this race at every check. And here is Vladislav Yakimov, the Soviet rider. Already through the check is Greg LeMond, and a surprise there for LeMond because Eric Breking has passed through just behind him, 6 seconds better than Greg LeMond, and now Yakimov has gone through with the third best time. He's 11 seconds down on Breking's time, but the big surprise is the Dutchman Eric Breking getting to the 19-kilometre point better than Greg LeMond, because we really thought that Greg was going to go through this at the fastest time at every check. And as you can see, the weather has now deteriorated for these late starters, and the roads are very, very slippery indeed. And this course is very testing. Some dangerous descents, and the riders will not relish them on these streamlined bicycles, which don't control as easily as the conventional machine. And here is Greg LeMond now approaching the finish. And let's see if he's recovered, because his time 1:18.11, he's going to be outside the time of Miguel Indurain. So this is a surprise. Greg LeMond riding the time trial. He seems set to be doing a good ride at the beginning. He faded in the center of the stage because he slipped away at the halfway. And there's further bad news for Greg LeMond, because Raúl Alcalá has gone through the 20-kilometre point with the best time now. Greg LeMond, the defending champion, who was expected to come back in the time trial today, is finding it a bigger problem than he thought. He is not going to be the winner, that's for sure, and I think when this time trial ends today, he will be quite a way down the leaderboard. LeMond in terribly wet conditions, turning round now towards the finish, and you can see the time of Indurain, which was done in dry conditions, standing up now to the big riders in the Tour de France. Greg LeMond is going to finish then as he comes up for the turn into the home straight. 100 metres to go. So those special handlebars this time have not proved the secret of success. The world champion, the defending champion of the Tour de France, in fourth place at the moment, 1:19.16 for fourth place, and there are still riders better than him at the checks to come. And this looks like Eric Breking, who was 4 seconds ahead of Greg LeMond at the 51-kilometre checkpoint. Breking was second fastest at 19.5 kilometres. He dropped back to third at 41.5. He retained third behind Indurain and Bugno at 51. Now can he produce the ride? There's the time of Indurain. He's already gone outside of that. What a great ride by the Spaniard today. He stayed ever so quiet in his opening week of the Tour, but he struck, it appears, when it matters most. Eric Breking then, the winner of the prologue time trial 1 year ago, now showing that he may have the form to challenge all the way to Paris this year, but he's going to have to bridge a gap to Miguel Indurain later on, because he's losing time now to him. LeMond is home with 1:19.16. Breking is going to have lost time to Greg LeMond as well over this closing quarter of the race, because he's going to be slower now than LeMond. He's dropped back on that dangerous descent that brings the riders down here into the town, and Eric Breking is going to finish 5th or 6th at the moment, I would say. He comes towards the line now as he makes his final turn, 100 metres to go. And Breking, who was threatening right through this time trial, has had a very, very poor last quarter. And clearly he suffered this last few kilometres. 1:19.45, only 7th place now for Eric Breking. And here is Raúl Alcalá out on the course, and he, I think, is on the ride of his life today. He won the time trial in the Tour de Trump and went on to win that race in May in the United States. He won the Tour of Mexico last year. He'd give both of them away if he could win the Tour de France this year. Alcalá has gone through the 41-kilometer check in the best time of 50 minutes, 51 seconds, and Steve Bauer is not on the leaderboard, so he is certainly losing time. The question is, how much is Raúl Alcalá doing? Greg LeMond will certainly be very disappointed with his ride today. He's currently in 4th place back at the finishing line with a time of 1 hour, 19 minutes and 16 seconds. But he is some considerable way behind Raúl Alcalá at the 41.5-kilometer check.
Well, incredible ride by Alcalá. He really has improved in the time trials of this year. He's come a long way, actually. He's come a long way since he first rode the Tour de France, and he's really looking good here. You can see the top half of his body's hardly moving at all as he gets down into that crouched aerodynamic position. He's just pumping the pedals around and going straight into the corners.
And here's the situation. We're still to come in. Raúl Alcalá and, of course, Steven Bauer. Miguel Indurain holding off all challenges. Bunyo retains his 2nd place. LeMond only 4th. And the other big names not penetrating the top 6. What a surprise result at the moment this is. And here comes Vyacheslav Yekimov, who is riding well out on the course, but the distance has told on the legs. It may be the cold getting through in these dreary conditions. And he is only just going to beat the 1 hour, 20-minute barrier, if indeed he beats it. And this will push him outside the top 10, I think. As he comes up to the line, in fact it does, he's 11th. And look at this, at 51 kilometers, Raúl Alcalá, 1 hour, 5 minutes ahead of Indurain, and Greg LeMond only in 5th place. Steve Bauer not on the leaderboard, so he's losing at least 2 minutes, 20 seconds of his lead to Raúl Alcalá. He is doing the ride today. Sean Kelly coming along the crowd line here. His time is going to be a lot better than that of Stephen Roach, who's already finished with a time of 1 hour, 22 minutes and 1 second. And I have a feeling that Stephen may have had a problem today, because at one stage he'd passed Martinelli and then he finished some way behind him. Sean Kelly then turning in towards the finish now. He's still outside by quite a long way, the time of Miguel Indurain. Kelly grits his teeth here. He wants a real good show in this year's Tour de France, having won the Tour of Switzerland, coming back from injury. His time is going to give him a reasonable finish. It may not be quite as high as he would have wanted, but there's still a long way to go in the Tour de France. Kelly comes over the line at 1:20 exactly, 12th place at the moment. And here comes Raúl Alcalá, the man who has been setting these roads alight today. He has been doing the ride of his life in this time trial. He dreams one day of winning the Tour de France, and this is going to be a new best time. There's no doubt about that. At the 41-kilometer check, he was already over 2 minutes ahead of the race leader, Steve Bauer. He's looking for 3 now off that lead of 10 minutes. He's almost certainly riding into 5th place overall in the race, behind the top 4 escapers of a week ago. So Alcalá, and look at the time on the right of our picture here, counting away against that of Miguel Indurain of 1:18, which has stood almost throughout the day today. The rain has since come. Alcalá has taken many, many risks, but now it's going to be rewarded with the best time of the day. And then he'll have to wait and just see what Bauer does. 1 hour, 17 minutes and 5 seconds. A tremendous ride by Raúl Alcalá. And that is going to be recorded as we go on towards Paris. And so this is Ronan Pensek arriving at the finish. He is not very far behind Frans Maassen, who's just come in. The question is now, has he made up those 13 seconds that he was behind Steve Bauer over this last quarter of the field? We'll have to wait till Bauer arrives to find that out. But Pensek is giving this his best shot all the way to the line. Now, this has been a great piece of time trial riding by Ronan Pensek.
Well, it really has, because he was the underdog compared with Steve Bauer. He's not a renowned time trialist. In fact, he's very rarely put in good time trials in the Tour de France. But when you're racing to take that yellow jersey, it really is. It does give you wings sometimes. And Pensek is really giving everything he's got here to try and get through to the finish.
And just look at this. He passes at Le Mans time now, or goes behind Le Mans, but so close to the finish. And really, that highlights the poor ride that Greg LeMond has done, because Pensek is not going to be too far away from the defending Tour champion. Comes up to the line to a big round of applause here. 6th best so far. Bauer to finish. 1:19:31. And now we have to wait to see if Steve Bauer can match that. His time he's got to do to keep the yellow jersey is 1 hour, 20 minutes and 5 seconds. Whatever happens, Paul, Bauer will either have or lose this yellow jersey by a handful of seconds.
Well, it's going to be very close on the line, and Steve is going to take all the risks. As you see him, he nearly lost it round that corner. It's a very dangerous run in here, and the riders who'd been to look at the course were very sceptical about the run-in, especially in the wet. As you can see, Bauer slipping all over the place.
I think that may well have cost Bauer the yellow jersey, because Pensek had no such problem coming off this hill down into the finish. Steve Bauer was clearly very, very nervous there, and he still is too, because he's fighting this bike. He's not at all confident now, and 13 seconds can be washed away very, very quickly today. Bauer now back into his rhythm, out of the saddle as he runs up towards the finish. The time, remember, he must do to keep the yellow jersey, 1:20:05, and it's going to be very, very tight indeed. He has a minute to do it now, and I think he might just do it. But Steve Bauer has been put into trouble, and he's fought back well over this last quarter of the course. Ronan Pensek only 13 seconds behind him at the 51-kilometer check, and Bauer must beat 1 hour, 20 minutes and 5 seconds to hold on to his leader's yellow jersey. He still has a couple of turns to go as the clock counts on. Bauer is going well. 250 meters to go. He should do it. It's going to be close, but Bauer's ridden well over this last quarter despite the hesitancy on the descent into the town. 100 meters to go. Steve Bauer will keep his yellow jersey, but it's been close. He's had a fright. He will not realize until he checks the time just how close it's been. But Steve Bauer will stay in yellow tonight. 1 hour, 19:48 for Steve Bauer. So the Canadian will keep his leader's yellow jersey, and Raúl Alcalá has eaten into his overall lead by quite a few minutes this evening. What a race this has been, and the big shock, of course, Greg LeMond is still to show to us that he is going to be the challenger on this year's Tour de France. Bauer, you can bet your life he's happy now.
This is the stage result then, a win for Raúl Alcalá with the best time of 1 hour, 70 minutes and 5 seconds, and Miguel Indurain in second place with 1 minute, 24 seconds back. Third was Gianni Bugno, the Italian Tour of Italy winner. Fourth, Pedro Delgado. Fifth, Greg LeMond. There's a real surprise, and what a great ride by Ronan Pensek, who finished in 6th place. So this is the overall situation tonight. Steve Bauer keeps his yellow jersey, but Ronan Pensek, who almost claimed it, has halved his deficit and stays in 2nd place. Chiappucci moves up into 3rd slot ahead of Franz Masson. Raúl Alcalá closes the gap enormously and moves into 5th place, while Gerrit Zollefeld drops back to 6th. Of the other stars in the Tour de France, Greg LeMond's time was not good, but he remains certainly a challenger. What about Stephen Roach, though? He did a poor time today, and he might live to regret that. Delgado remains also a challenger in this Tour de France, and it has a long way to go. Well, there's no doubt there are 2 men of the race tonight. One is Raúl Alcalá, the Mexican who gets his first ever time trial win in this Tour de France and takes almost 3 minutes back off the overall lead of Steve Bauer. But Steve Bauer survived a fright, and he still holds his lead in this race, and he'll be a tough man to topple. It's been a great day's racing. Don't forget, tomorrow at 5:30, we will have a full hour's coverage of tomorrow's stage on the road to Besançon. And if you do receive foretel, then you can see all of the results on page 465. But for now, it's goodbye from us here in France.